Everyone clocked him the second he stepped on. Marcus Ellis. Tailored charcoal suit. Fade so sharp it could slice egos. Polished Oxfords tapping calmly against the jet bridge. First class, seat 22A. He wasn't loud, didn't carry a briefcase that screamed power. But everything about him whispered it. Whitney Albright, the lead flight attendant. Think blonde bob, pearls from a catalog, and the kind of smile that's more sugar than sincerity. Zeroed in on him like he'd stepped into her country club barefoot. "Excuse me, sir. Can I see your ticket?" she chirped, fake polite. He handed it over. Her smile dropped an inch. "Oh," she said, scanning it twice. "Are you sure this is your seat?" Marcus didn't flinch. "Yes." She hesitated. Then she laughed. Not the warm kind, the "you don't belong here" kind. "Coach is that way," she said, gesturing behind him like she was helping the help find their place. The people around them, mostly white, mostly wealthy, pretended not to listen, but leaned in with that hungry silence. Only rich people perfect. Marcus stayed calm. "I'm in 22A. Whitney's tone got sharper. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice." He hadn't even raised it. A man across the aisle opened his phone camera. Another whispered, "Here we go." And just like that, a scene was born. Whitney called over another flight attendant. "He's being aggressive," she said, loud enough for the cabin to catch every syllable. The pilot showed up. Everyone stiffened. Marcus sat, back straight, eyes forward, jaw tight. He reached into his pocket, not fast, not flashy, and pulled out his phone. "One call. That's all, just one. Get the board on the line." And just like that, boom, dead silence. Whitney blinked. "I'm sorry, who?" Marcus looked up, not smug, not angry, just aware. "I said get the board on the line." Captain swallowed hard. Whitney's smirk cracked. "See, what no one on that plane knew?" Marcus Ellis wasn't just some passenger. He was the executive vice president of compliance and ethics for the airline, the man they send in when lawsuits are incoming, when headlines are being drafted, when someone fumbles the corporate image into a PR volcano. And right now, he was the volcano. Security never showed. Whitney stopped talking. And Marcus? He just sat there, calm, cool, and unbothered, watching everyone realize in real time that they'd just messed with the wrong man, in the wrong seat, on the wrong damn day. The phone in the cockpit rang. The captain answered, eyes darting toward Marcus. 30 seconds later, he emerged, sweating like a man who just found out his mortgage depended on the guy in 22A. "Sir," he said, voice tight, "is there anything we can do to make your flight more comfortable?" Marcus smiled. "No need, just get us off the ground." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't make a scene. He just was. The kind of calm that shakes people more than shouting ever could. And Whitney, she went quiet. She worked the rest of the cabin like her shoes were filled with wet cement. By the time the plane landed, half of first class knew his name. The other half pretended they hadn't watched an entire stereotype unravel like tissue paper in a hurricane. And Marcus, he walked off that plane without looking back. Because when you know who you are, you don't have to prove it. You just sit in 22A and let the world figure out why it suddenly feels very, very small. It's not loud, but the air thickens like someone just cranked up the cabin pressure and didn't tell the pilot. Passengers start whispering, side eyes start darting, and the tension? Oh, it's doing backflips down the aisle. Marcus doesn't move, still locked into seat 22A like he's carved into it. Calm, still, but watching everything. Whitney, though? Nah, she doubles down. "This isn't personal," she huffs, lips tight like she's trying to suck the authority out of the air. "We have rules, protocols. Girl, you ever heard of picking the wrong hill to die on? Passengers are split, like banana pudding at a church cookout. One woman, 3 rows up, says loudly, "I don't see why it's such a big deal. He has his ticket." A guy in a Patagonia vest mutters, "There's always some kind of drama these days," and disappears deeper into his Wall Street Journal. Most just sit tight, pretending this little PR disaster isn't currently melting like butter on a waffle, 3 feet from them. And Whitney, she's feeling backed by the invisible armor of white-collar righteousness. Except, the armor's got a hole in it. And through that hole, a wrecking ball named Marcus Ellis is quietly loading up. See, here's what Whitney doesn't know, and what this entire flight is about to find out. Marcus isn't just a first-class passenger, or even just an airline executive. He's the newly minted, silently installed majority silent partner in the holding company that bought this whole damn airline 6 months ago. You know that call he made a few minutes ago? That wasn't to some manager. That was to Lawrence Keating, the executive chairman of the board, the man who answers to nobody but God, a handful of shareholders, and apparently Marcus Ellis. Cut to the cockpit. The captain gets a call. His phone, not the flight line, not dispatch. This is that direct line they keep for emergencies and CEOs. Captain Thorne speaking. The voice on the other end is icy. "This is Keating." Captain Thorne almost swallows his headset. "Sir?" "Leave the man alone." There's a pause, thick and fast. "And Captain?" "Yes, sir." "If he's not treated like a guest of this airline, hell, like a partner, you can consider yourself grounded, in every sense. Your choice, apologize and do your job, or step off the plane." Whoa. Back in the cabin, Whitney's hands are on her hips like she's hosting a TED Talk on rules no one asked for. "If he doesn't comply, we'll have to delay takeoff. I'm doing this by the book," she tells another flight attendant, loud enough to ride the cabin wall. And then the pilot appears, which never happens unless something's on fire or someone's getting dragged off. "Ms. Albright," Captain Thorne says, voice clipped like he's biting down hard on a lemon. "Can I speak with you?" "Up front." She blinks. "We're in the middle of..." "Now!" They disappear. The flight crew trades glances like, "Uh-oh, someone just stepped in it." Marcus doesn't even glance up. He's already settled in, sipping sparkling water like he's waiting for someone to realize this is chess, not checkers. 2 minutes later, Whitney returns. No fire, no fury. Just this hollow look, like someone just told her the call was coming from inside the house. She clears her throat. "Apologies for the confusion," she says tightly, voice thin. "We'll be taking off shortly." Marcus raises his glass slightly. Not even a full toast. Just a flick of acknowledgement. Like, yeah, that's what I thought. People start murmuring again, but now it's a different kind of whisper. Not suspicion, respect. Or, at the very least, a very real fear of getting dragged into a lawsuit. And as the plane pulls away from the gate, climbing toward cruising altitude, you can feel it in the cabin. The shift. Not just because one man made a call, but because he reminded everyone that power doesn't always walk in yelling. Sometimes, it just sits down and waits for the world to catch up. Somewhere over Nebraska, the real turbulence starts. And it ain't coming from outside the plane. Whitney's gone. Like, poof, vanished mid-flight. 1 second she's trying to eyeball Marcus into submission. The next she's getting politely asked to report to the back galley for a routine protocol debrief, which in airline speak is corporate lingo for girl. You just stepped in it and now you're in timeout until legal gets involved. They swap her out with a different attendant. Young, fresh-faced, terrified to even offer Marcus a napkin without apologizing first. Marcus doesn't even flinch, doesn't look at her, doesn't breathe in her direction. He's not here for apologies. He's here for reckoning. Outside that pressurized metal tube, though, oh, the real chaos is just taking off. Airport terminals light up like a Christmas tree in July. Phones are buzzing, inboxes exploding. Screenshots of a blurry, whispered video. Marcus, calm and silent. Whitney, losing her composure, start floating onto Twitter. Someone drops a caption. Guess who just tried to kick the VP of their new parent company off a plane? Number 22A. And like wildfire, the algorithm does what it does best: expose everything. By the time the plane hits cruising altitude, half the C-suite is hitting the panic button. Marcus's assistant, Devin, a strategic beast in Nikes and a blazer, waits on the tarmac with a laptop already open and a Bluetooth headset locked in. This man's not just a handler, he's a digital bloodhound. He's been collecting receipts like Pokemon cards. Got 4 videos from passengers, Devin says, voice tight but calm, pacing like the runway belongs to him. 2 have Whitney clearly misidentifying Marcus. 1 has her straight up calling him aggressive without provocation. Already geotagged, timestamped, verified. I've got incident reports from past flights she's worked. And surprise, she's had conflict history. One from 3 months ago involving a Latino family and a stroller. That one magically disappeared. Marcus hasn't even landed yet, and the building blocks of an HR disaster/viral meltdown are being neatly stacked like legal Jenga. Then the phone rings. Not Marcus's, Devin's. He glances at the screen. VP of Brand and Culture. Marcus nods once. Devin answers. Mr. Ellis, the voice on the other end begins. It's smooth, desperate, and soaked in panic. First of all, let me say how deeply sorry we are. This was a clear miscommunication and does not reflect the values of our organization. Devin doesn't respond. Just hands the phone to Marcus without a word. Marcus presses it to his ear. I'm listening. Please, let us fix this, the VP says, fast and nervous. It's not who we are. Marcus breathes slowly. No, he says, voice level, sharp enough to slice through a boardroom table. It's exactly who you are. The difference is this time, it happened to someone you couldn't brush under the rug. Dead silence. You think I'm the first? Marcus continues. You think Whitney just woke up and chose bias on a Tuesday? Or is it that you only care when the person she disrespects has enough equity to trigger a shareholder revolt? The VP tries again. We'll launch a full investigation. We'll issue a public statement. Marcus cuts him off. Don't bother writing the statement. I already am. The call ends, just like that. Back on the plane, the cabin lights dim. Some folks nap. Some sip overpriced bourbon. But the quiet has shifted. Even the air feels different, like the plane itself knows it's carrying a storm in seat 22A. And Marcus still hasn't said a damn word to the crew. Because when you've got the receipts, the silence hits harder than a rant ever could. Down below, terminals glow. Execs scramble and social media starts sharpening its knives. The story's no longer about one flight. It's about the mask slipping. About systems being seen for what they are. And as the plane starts its descent into LAX, a message is already forming across every newsfeed. Don't underestimate the man in seat 22A. 2 days later, Manhattan. Not the loud part with tourists and knockoff bags. The high-glass steel nerves part. Top floor, no-nonsense views, and windows that don't open for liability reasons. Marcus Ellis sits at the head of a conference table that looks like it was carved out of pure intimidation. Everyone else, silent. Some sipping from mugs they ain't really drinking, some trying not to breathe too loud. Legal is here. PR is here. A few C-suite execs are here, looking like they just found out their security badge might not scan tomorrow. In front of Marcus, a laptop, connected to the main screen. Behind him, Devin, sleeves rolled, AirPods in, deadly quiet. Marcus clicks play, and the room changes. It starts with the Whitney incident, the one they all know, the one that dropped like a nuke on their brand's trust equity. But then, clip after clip rolls in. Flight attendants misidentifying black passengers, random security checks that aren't so random. Brown men pulled aside for bag checks while their white seatmates walk free. A mother with a baby stroller getting berated. A teenager being forced to switch seats after boarding. Each video is timestamped, verified, and cross-referenced with employee reports. The receipts? Biblical. "You've been collecting these?" one executive finally asks, barely hiding the tremble in his voice. "For years," Marcus replies, not even looking up. "Since the first time I was asked if I was in the right seat. Since the first time I was called sir, with a tone that meant boy. Since before this board ever knew my name." He clicks one last clip. A white flight attendant scolding a Latina woman for speaking Spanish too loudly. The woman's daughter had been translating the menu. Then he closes the laptop. "This isn't an isolated incident," Marcus says, tone razor flat. "It's a culture. And culture doesn't get fixed with an apology video or an emotional press release typed by someone who's never been humiliated at 30,000 feet. He slides a thick folder across the table. It's labeled in bold black, Acquisition Phase 2. Someone at the table coughs. "We didn't just buy a majority stake in the airline," Marcus continues. "We bought a window into the rot. Now we're opening it up." Inside the folder, a list, names, titles, dates of complaints, HR cover-ups, executives who greenlit the bearing of incidents, PR staff who quietly silenced whistleblowers, union reps who traded silence for perks. It's not just a hit list. It's a blueprint for dismantling the old guard. "These are the people who shaped this problem," Marcus says, folding his hands. "You're going to help me replace them." The room shifts. Some execs glance down. One starts to speak. "This could create liability if we move too fast," Marcus cuts in. "Liability? You're worried about liability?" He leans forward, eyes steel. "You've already created liability. I'm offering you something else. Survival." A long silence. Then Devon steps forward, drops a stack of NDAs on the table like dominoes. "You'll sign these today, and you'll help us execute Phase 2 cleanly, or we file with the Civil Rights Division. The evidence is airtight. You think bad PR's expensive? Try a federal investigation." Someone swears under their breath. Marcus doesn't flinch. "You don't fix culture with apologies," he says, standing now, coat draped over one arm like armor. "You fix it with consequences. You fix it by burning down the lie and building something real." He turns to leave, but stops at the door. "And don't bother drafting a statement for me," he adds without turning around. "I'll write my own." Then he walks out. The silence behind him isn't just shock. It's the sound of a kingdom realizing it just got a new ruler. The news doesn't just break, it detonates. By the time the East Coast hits brunch hours, headlines are already blasting from every screen, phone, and smartwatch like a coordinated media strike. Black executive owns. Airline after racial incident. Seat 22A just became ground zero for change. The man who made the sky answerable. The video, viral before wheels hit the runway. Clips stitched with outrage. Threads woven with context. Think pieces drop like dominoes. TikToks, duets, and IG Reels light up with side-by-side reactions. Whitney's smirk. Marcus's calm. The captain's sudden change of tone. But Marcus? Radio silent. No interviews, no statements. No Good Morning America softball segment. Just a quiet no thanks to every media request that comes in. Because Marcus doesn't need the spotlight. He is the message. The facts are speaking loud enough. Whitney? Suspended, unpaid leave. But Marcus makes it clear. We're not here to feed a mob. We're here to fix a system. And fixing it? Oh, he comes in swinging. At a surprise press briefing, not live-streamed, not fancy, just raw. He lays it out, simple, direct, sharp. One mandatory anti-bias retraining for every airline employee, from check-in clerks to corporate directors. Not some 2-hour online slideshow. He brings in real educators, trauma-informed consultants, and experts who've lived what others pretend doesn't exist. 2. Anonymous incident reporting platform. Third-party verified, tracked quarterly, made public. Not just to check a box, but to build receipts in real time. No more "we weren't aware" defense. 3. Restructuring leadership, especially in customer-facing teams. Those at the top who've coasted on privilege, who've protected each other behind closed doors, they're being audited, evaluated, and, if necessary, replaced. Period. But Marcus doesn't stop there. Because policy change is survival. But legacy change, that's power. He announces the Ellis Foundation, a new initiative to diversify aviation at every level. Scholarships for BIPOC youth to become pilots, engineers, dispatchers. Mentorship programs for corporate leadership. A full pipeline from the classroom to the cockpit to the boardroom. He doesn't want to be the only black man in first class. He wants to be one of many who helped build the damn plane. At the next quarterly meeting, someone asks him, calmly, professionally, camera rolling, why he's doing all this. Marcus looks up, smooth and unshaken. No script, just truth. Because nobody deserves to be treated like turbulence in their own sky. And that line, that one sentence, it breaks the internet, becomes a hashtag, a t-shirt, a mural in Atlanta. Kids start quoting it in schools. Pilots write it on sticky notes in cockpits. For once, a corporate response doesn't feel like damage control. It feels like reconstruction, brick by brick. And Marcus Ellis, he just keeps building. It's been months. The headlines have faded. The hashtags slowed. The algorithms moved on to whatever chaos went viral this week. But the change? That part's still in motion. Marcus Ellis boards another flight, quietly, like always. No entourage, no camera crew, no dramatic entrance. Just a man in a crisp suit with a carry-on and a presence you can't fake. Gate 4A, first class, no whispers this time. At least not the kind laced with suspicion. People know now. But more importantly, they understand now. As he walks toward the jet bridge, a small voice cuts through the murmur of boarding announcements. "Mom," a young boy says, tugging at his mother's sleeve. "That's him. That's the man." Marcus hears it, but doesn't turn. He doesn't need to. The boy's mother leans down, whispering gently, "That's the man who changed everything." But Marcus smiles softly to himself, not out of ego, but because that kid just got handed a mirror, one that finally reflects back possibility. He reaches his seat, 2A, again, full circle. This time, the flight attendant waiting for him is a black woman in her 30s. Neat bun, wings pinned to her blazer, eyes sharp but kind. She looks him right in the eye. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Ellis," she says. No forced perkiness, no performative pandering, just respect. "Let me know if there's anything you need today." He nods. "Thank you." And she moves on to the next passenger with the same energy. No favoritism, no panic, just dignity passed out like peanuts. That's the shift. Because Marcus never wanted a damn throne. He never wanted revenge or headlines or applause. He wanted equity. He wanted a world where people didn't have to shrink themselves to fit someone else's comfort zone. A world where your seat didn't define your worth, and your skin didn't require you to prove you belonged there. He wanted to burn the old playbook and write a new one. Not just with better rules, but with better players. And it's happening, slowly, unevenly. But it's happening. In flight schools across the country, kids are now applying through programs his foundation funded. Airlines are reworking training from the inside out. Equity reports are getting published publicly. Leadership is more diverse. HR's not just a department anymore, it's a watchdog with bite. It's not perfect, not yet, but it's pressure tested. And it's real. As the aircraft lifts off, slicing into the clouds with mechanical grace, Marcus leans back in his seat, window open, eyes scanning the sky like he owns a piece of it now. And maybe, in a way, he does. Not because of a title, not because of a press cycle, but because someone, somewhere, will sit down today in seat 22A, or 34C, or even stand behind a gate counter and feel something different. a little lighter, a little freer. Because they don't have to fight for their seat. Because he already did. Marcus exhales, eyes still on the sky. And for the first time in a long time, it doesn't feel like escape. It feels like home.